Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and I am very excited for today's episode because we're talking about a band that used to be my favorite band back in my college years, 20-ish years ago. Oh my gosh. But anyway, if I had to pick one album of theirs to recommend, it would be 2002's Creatures, which is a really cool kind of neo-psychedelia, indie pop concept album. So I'm very excited to talk about it with you guys. So let's dive in to track number 1, which is called Let the Serpent Sleep. Yeah, I actually like the song quite a bit lyrically because he's talking about how nature will do what nature is designed to do. You know, day will turn into night, dogs will always bite, etc., etc. But then he's talking about the serpents sleeping underneath, right? They're frozen underneath, as he says. So what I imagine he's talking about is the serpent is the badness, the evil within each of us that is always there. Under certain circumstances, it comes out, right? If we're threatened or if desperation comes into our lives, you know, we never know what we're capable of until we're put to the test, in other words. So the serpent is always there within each of us, metaphorically. And we got to kind of keep it, you know, frozen underneath through you know, trying to live a good life, trying to have a good job and a nice family, and trying to be positive, and, you know, trying to avoid situations that would cause the serpent to rise up and break the ice and take over your life and make you become a horrible person, right? So that's kind of how I interpret this song, is everyone, no matter how good they seem, has a hidden serpent just waiting to be unleashed. Right. I mean, I can speak for myself as a bipolar person who once went manic, and during that mania, I did a few things that I never thought I would do. I mean, nothing too crazy, but I said things that I never would have said if I wasn't manic, for example. So the serpent was unleashed for a little bit, for me. So I can identify with this song and what he's talking about. I dig it. But also, it's just a really catchy, great opener. I really like this song. So anyway, let's move on to track 2, which is called Everlasting Scream. Yeah, so clearly he's talking about gods or a god, right? Because he says, who flies above them all? To the past, the millions crawl. So he's basically talking about the fact that, thousands of years ago, we either created these gods, or maybe God does exist and Jesus was actually, our savior, or whatever. But the point is, thousands of years ago, these things were created, and we're still thinking about them to this very day, because we're all very worried of the possibility that, like, what if they were right? If they were right, and I have done something I shouldn't have done, then there's a possibility I'm going to wind up in hell forever, right? So, like, it's this ancient kind of fear that we have allowed to continue to exist throughout the years, right? The ancient fear of, if you displease the gods, then you'll wind up in a horrible, horrible hellscape forever. So, it's a very depressing thing if you think about it, because if you go a little bit deep and you consider the fact that, like, what if we lost all knowledge of, I don't know, let's say Christianity, and for thousands of years humans lived their lives without any Christian religion, but Christianity was true. So that would basically say that for thousands of years everyone was damned to hell, because they didn't know about Christianity, they didn't know about what they were supposed to do, they didn't know about the Bible and Jesus, and so, unknowingly, they lived their whole life, happy-go-lucky, but obviously when they die, they go to hell because they weren't religious, right? I mean, just think about that. That's kind of depressing. So because of that thought, people very carefully have, over the years, with the monks in the Dark Ages, they, hand copied Bibles, and they were very, very strict about religion because, geez Louise, if they were right, I mean, that's one hell of a punishment, is to wind up in hell forever. So anyway, it makes me think about all these things. So I appreciate it. But anyway, let's talk about track 3 next, which is a favorite of mine. It's called The Creature. I just love the sound of this song. It's so darn catchy. And I imagine he's talking about the darkness, kind of like track 1. He's talking about the darkness that's within each of us. The creature that roams is basically the temptation to go to the dark side, to do things you shouldn't be doing, to act in ways you shouldn't be acting, right? The creature is kind of like the devil, and the devil's temptation is how I interpret this song. So he's constantly roaming the land for thousands of years, waiting for you to be at your lowest point. Because when you're at your lowest point is basically when you do dumb things and you do criminal things, potentially, in my opinion. So the creature is the devil roaming the landscape, just waiting for his next victim, to ensnare and then take his soul forever and burn in hell for all eternity. Kind of depressing. But anyway, I really like this song sonically. It's a lot of fun. But let's move along to track number 4, which is called Palace of the Flames. Yeah, this song is pretty wild. But I imagine you've got this character who is old and wise, right? He's had a lot of life experience. He can provide you with a lot of wisdom, you know, a lot of useful tips for what to do and what not to do in one's life. And I imagine, you know, he's not really being utilized by anybody. So he's kind of getting older and he's seeing people around him going to the Palace of the Flames, right? Which is kind of like a metaphor for doing the wrong thing. You know, it doesn't have to be like a criminal thing or an evil thing per se, but maybe it's just like, you know, it's the cycle of life with each generation. You know, even though we've had songs and movies telling us about people doing stupid things, you know, under certain circumstances, you would think that we would have learned something by this point, that we wouldn't follow in their footsteps and do these same stupid things, you know, because we've seen movies about it and we've heard songs about it, and there are people like the guy in the song who could tell us not to do these things. But every generation, you know, does the same stupid things over and over again. It's an endless cycle, basically. So this poor old man, he sees all these young people, is what it sounds like, who just constantly are messing up their lives because they won't take the wisdom of an old man, is what it sounds like. So that's kind of how I think of this song. You know, these poor young souls, they should talk to their elderly neighbors, man. Learn a thing or two. But anyway, I love this song. Let's move along to track 5, which is called The Modern Mind. Yeah, so this song is a little bit more poetic and dense and hard to figure out, if I'm being honest. But the way I see this song is he's talking about how in our modern world, you know, because he says the modern mind, in our modern world, we kind of think that we're beyond, you know, like our dark age mentality or our ancient fear the gods mentality, that we're more enlightened these days. Right, we're smarter. We have more technology. We're more together as a planet. Right. I mean, we have countries, obviously, but we're mostly a globalized planet at this point. So we kind of feel like we're putting ourselves on this pedestal of like, oh, we've got it all figured out. But This song is kind of a reminder, I would imagine, that there's still demons trying to claw into your minds and your heart and your soul, trying to get you to do stupid, awful things, despite the fact that we have history books and those old wise people that I mentioned from the last track trying to help us out, despite the fact that we have, like movies and songs reminding us not to do stupid things, right? Even though we have all of those things that we can benefit from, we're still susceptible to the demons that are constantly trying to break free. Like on track 1, the serpents are trying to break free and, grab us and lead us into a dark path. So, I go a little bit deep with this song, maybe a little bit too much, but I think these things about the modern mind. But anyway, let's move on to track 6, which is probably my favorite song on the album. I just love the sound of it. It's called Visions of the Sea. Yeah, this song just has such an amazing sound to it. I mean, it's very hypnotic, in my opinion. I really like it. And, I imagine he's talking about a person who has gone to the dark side completely, because he says, it's too late. The light has gone. So listen to the siren song calling from the sea. In other words, this person, is no longer savable. He's following the siren, which of course in ancient Greek mythology, the siren is totally bad news. So he's gone down to the dark path, whatever that means. Maybe he's become a criminal or a murderer, or I don't know. He's cheating on his wife or whatever it is. He's gone to the dark side. So it's kind of a tale about somebody who, I suppose can no longer be saved, or if they can be saved, it's going to take a heck of a lot of work. Probably a lot of Jesus, right? And I only say that because in prison, it's very common for people, who are like lifers in prison to turn to Jesus or to Islam or whatever as like a way to try to desperately cling back to, righteousness and to try to become a good person again, even though they're basically going to be spending most of their life in prison. They want to save themselves somewhat, so they do it through religion. Anyway, so I love this song. It's my favorite song. It's such ear candy. But let's move along. Let's talk about track 7, which is called Things That Should Not Be. Yeah, so he seems to be talking about mental issues a lot on this album. So this song really speaks to me. because I imagine somebody with inner demons who's constantly being tempted through, like, for example, maybe he's bipolar and he's being a little bit manic during the summertime, which is usually when it happens. So in that state of mind, he's kind of being tempted to go to the dark side a little bit, to do things he wouldn't normally do, because you're more confident and courageous. So you might be a little bit more forward. You might be a little bit more wild and crazy. I've certainly had my own experience with that kind of thing. So I know what he's talking about. So you've got this character who's basically succumbing to the dark side, is what it sounds like. He's being constantly tempted mentally. So he's losing the battle. Our poor hero is he's just losing the battle. I don't know what else to say. But anyway, that's track 7. I really like it as well. But I have one more clip for you guys from the next song, track 8. It's called 3 Seeds. So I've always thought of this song as a very positive vibe. It's a very positive message that even if you've been caught in a web, as he says, like metaphorically, and it seems like you can't escape this either physical anguish that you're in or mental anguish that you're in, that there's always hope for you to rise above the trees in the poisoned air, as he puts it. Like as I mentioned earlier, with prisoners who are obviously in a horrible situation, but one of the ways in which they try to rise above it is they, start reading the Bible and they gain hope in Jesus and things like that. They join other inmates who are also becoming religious, and they bond with them. It doesn't have to be that dire, but basically it's a message about no matter how much you're struggling in life, no matter how down and out you are, maybe you're dirt poor and you're homeless and you're a drug addict, even in that state, which is a really awful state, there's still hope for you. Don't think that there's nothing left, that there's no possible way for you to rise above it all and hopefully start a new life. So I appreciate it. It's kind of a hopeful message for all of you people in the world who are kind of, at your rock bottom point in life. Don't give up is basically what I'm trying to say. So anyway, that's the last track I want to talk about with you guys. Again, it's technically a concept album about, creatures and devils, and it's literally called Creatures. But I like to interpret the lyrics as, metaphors for a lot of things, like I talked about. So it's a very interesting album. It's a very consistent album. I like every song on it, and there are definitely some gems, like Visions of the Sea and The Creatures, which really stand out to me. It's a very, very solid album. I definitely recommend it. And I hope you guys thought it was interesting. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to let me know, as per usual, your thoughts on the comments. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It really helped me out. But yeah, that's elf power for you. That's Creatures. Check it out and have a good one.